Hi, thanks for tuning in to another episode of The Spiritual Scientist. I'm Victor. Thanks for checking me out, Victor Hamza. So let's get right into a couple neat things. Just thought I'd talk about some of the comments that viewers have commented on. I'd like to address those to help out everybody and a couple other things and sign off. I'm a busy guy and I'm right now absolutely exhausted. This week has been very tiring. If I was gonna act new agey, it seems like this is very draining right now. What's going on? So I've been really exhausted. Oh yeah, I shaved, so I do that all the time. I change my look. I do that all the time. Maybe I quantum shifted. It's easier to say you shaved, right? But for you guys, I could say, hey, I quantum shifted from another reality. It's a different me. But no, I just shaved. I try to have fun with this. Anyway, I'm just going to, I was doing these live. Now I'm videotaping them, but I tend not to erase it and go back and do it. So I'm just going to talk for a bit. And I have to do some other things, so I'm going to talk quickly so as to not waste your time. Get a lot of knowledge out there quick. I have like 4 points I thought I'd talk about. One is, and they'll all kind of make sense. One is, I felt like the Mandela Effect. Kind of don't like that name for it. Everybody thinks about Nelson Mandela, and I don't know. Let's come up with a new name. Quantum something. The Mandela Effect. I believe because I consider myself like a light worker because I was a Reiki master for over 30 years and doing distance healing all the time. Believe it is a shift for instance, myself. I believe that my consciousness now resides more in a 5D plus environment where for other people maybe it's more of a 3D environment. And if you want to know what I'm talking about, check out maybe 5 or 6 videos ago. There's something I have, fifth dimensional consciousness, where I actually go over different levels of consciousness in relation to different levels of the dimensions. In fact, I talk about the physics, which is neat. So I link the physics between one-dimensional, two-dimensional, and fifth dimensional and fourth dimensional consciousness. So I was thinking about last night, and when I'm in different mind states, it all kind of comes clear. And then when I'm sitting in front of you guys, it's like the veil comes down, and it doesn't make sense. But then later on, maybe in the middle of the night, I'll wake up and all of a sudden everything, seems pretty clear, and I'm like, I just can't enunciate those ideas in front of you, which is interesting, to say the least. But with that said, I believe that our and my consciousness has been raised up to a fifth dimensional and higher level. That's why we could perceive these Mandela effects. As I stated in one of my previous videos, and I don't like to repeat myself, but if we're at a fifth dimensional plus level of consciousness, I mentioned that is if you're in the third dimension, and the fourth dimension would be with time, fifth dimension would be acknowledgement of quantum entanglement, and us being able to notice quantum entanglement would mean that this is a level of fifth dimensional consciousness. Now, I'm not saying that we're only on fifth dimensional consciousness. I believe it's higher. But if you're able to perceive what do I mean by quantum entanglement? Quantum entanglement means with two particles are quantum entangled. You spin one, the other one spins automatically. So if we have two particles on the other side of the universe, those particles would react. So if in fact we have particles, it would be a higher level of consciousness if we have a quantum shift where you have different shifts between universes. Then those kind of one would shift, the other one would shift. We would notice that would be a higher state of consciousness. No, so I don't think I ever mentioned this before, but if we had, for instance, the level of the Mandela Effect, for some people notice just name changes. The name changes themselves, this came to me, that react at a deeper level of the mind. For instance, at a level of your mind where it deals with conceptualizing the name itself of something, where it has more than one letter or two letters and things of that nature. That actually is, if you were able, and they have dissected the mind and look at the mind as a snapshot, you'll see it would be towards the Cygnus, not Cygnus, gyrus. It would be towards the center of the brain. It would be, we have the cerebellum, you have different parts of the brain. It would be more towards the center. So the parts of the brain that are affected with the higher level of shifting consciousness are perceiving our reality change in these different mind states. So if you have a fifth dimensional level of consciousness, then you're able to perceive, for instance, the name change. For instance, Jim Carrey to Jim Carrey with the different letters in his name, and I believe that these things are to help us to move higher frequency that we're actually learning. So someone commented, they said that if in my last couple of videos I talked about like fruit and like kiwis and things like that, mini kiwis and mini avocados and things like that, and they said, well, why don't you consult someone who's, and if you're talking about insects, why don't you consult someone who's an expert on insects or an expert on fruit, see what they think about it. What they didn't seem to understand is that if I'm noticing these changes, then that means that that's the level of consciousness I feel like I've achieved in order to relate to those levels of consciousness. And then people who don't see these levels of consciousness, see these effects, just haven't related to these things in their environment. So if you don't have the eyes to see, you won't see. If you don't have the ears to perceive these things, you can't hear them. So if you don't have the conceptual consciousness to take these things into your awareness, then you won't perceive them. It's not someone else's fault if they're on a third dimensional level of consciousness. For them to perceive something in the fifth dimension, you can't expect them to do that. But I believe in angels, and I believe that they're a higher level dimension of consciousness. And being that I honestly feel that I worked with the angels in healing other people, that maybe some of this brushed off, but it helps me to understand a lot of these things. So I wanted to bring that out. That I believe that the higher level of quantum shifting of our consciousness, now we're able to perceive more things. So I wanted to get that out. I don't know if I try to say these things, and then A lot of people, when I talk about 5D, I have a meme I made up, people's eyes roll back and they say, "Oh yeah, I gotcha, I understand." And then 5 minutes later, it's wiped. Like they just don't get it. So maybe you understand what I'm trying to say. But if you're at a third dimensional level of consciousness, most of what I'm saying doesn't make sense and you're disagreeing with me, which is okay. What I'm trying to do, and I feel like this is part of why I'm here, is on my mission, is to help other people raise their level of awareness to a higher level of consciousness. And being that we have other people out there in the world that say they're into spirituality and they're priests and whomever, but if they can't talk about this and they don't understand it, it actually means that they're not, it doesn't mean that they're not spiritual. It just means that they haven't achieved this level of consciousness. And I do believe that it meshes with spirituality because we're spiritual beings. So just wanted to put that nugget out there. Also, I go on forums and I saw somebody said that and it struck a chord. And when something strikes a chord with me, I pay attention. So they said that people are worried, and I understand. And people are worried, and they're saying that a doctor or a lawyer or something, if he notices the Mandela effect, he wouldn't go out in public, or she, because they have a reputation and they wouldn't want to say anything, and they wouldn't do that until it's more vetted and they have more risk. Listen, I'm a professional person. I'm out here in public, right? I feel like it's important enough to stick my neck out and talk to you guys about it and tell you the latest things I feel, because I feel love in my heart for humanity. So that's another reason. Also, we can gather information, and I've learned that when I speak and then people say something back, I reflect off, and then it helps me to conceptualize more things. But for people to worry, also the same commenter said that they were worried that if people actually thought or understood that there were Mandela effects, it would cause quote unquote mass panic, and it would cause a stock market crash, and there would be crimes in the streets. I honestly feel like nothing can be further from the truth. So the people that actually perceive the quantum shifting of a higher level of consciousness are more spiritually inclined, and these aren't the people that would be doing those things. So it's a catch-22 in a way. Like it's not catch-22. It's the exact opposite. Like, these are the people that you could trust to, if you left your wallet out with all the money in your wallet on the desk and left the room, these are the people that wouldn't touch any of the money. You understand? These are the people that you can trust, are the people who notice the Mandela effects. Now, I'm not saying that people who don't notice a Mandela effect are not trustworthy. I'm not saying that. What I am saying is that the people who are who are, I was going to say it, infected, who notice these Mandela effects are not those type of not those type of people. Otherwise, they wouldn't notice it, because, like I said from the beginning, it's something spiritual. So you're not noticing that in 3D. If your consciousness is raising, you're noticing these things. You're getting, you're enabling your 12th dimensional strand DNA crystalline matrix. There, I said that. So when that's getting enabled, which the higher strands are undetectable. There. It sounds like gobbledygook, but that's what I'm getting. So when those things are happening, you're not that guy. You're not that guy or gal. You're not the one that's gonna be crashing the stock market or burning things or running through the streets, pulling your hair out, screaming at the top of your lungs. There's a Mandela effect of an avocado. I have to rob a bank. That's not happening. So it's the same type of thing that the government tried to hide about UFOs and things like that. In reality, the most intelligent people are the ones that conceptualize and understand about UFOs, are the same people that wouldn't do those kind of things. The stock market crash and whatnot. The people who that's what I'm saying. So I just thought I'd address that as well, because that kind of came up a little bit, and wanted to make that come up and then put it to bed. So let's say that, and I believe that we're all protected who are saying the truth. You're protected by your words being true, and you have to live your truth. So let's just live our truth, and you shouldn't be able to get in trouble for telling the truth, right? Anyway, wanted to say that. I also noticed that some people are getting more, they're worried, the people in charge, Jay Chris went. He's another person on, he has a channel called the I Am. Shout out to him. Hey, he has something going on where he called up CERN, and he called the original guy. Then that had a video that he held up. He had Mandela on the wall, and he hung up something about Bond, and that was Mandela Effect. And he called CERN, and they were like, "What are you talking about?" He said, "Oh, he explained the Mandela Effect and everything." And there's some months later they shut down CERN. I think they were a little concerned. They're like, "Oh, is there something going on with CERN? What is it? What is going on?" Maybe CERN did it. So I think that I think there are people that are concerned with in higher places that are concerned with these things, and they're not keeping a lid on it, but they understand that there's something going on, but they're not at the fifth dimensional level plus of consciousness, so they're not perceiving this and think it's all malarkey, but they're willing to spend some money on some committees to look into it. And some scientists would say, "Hey, let's do surveys and find out that a lot of people are affected, and let's shut down CERN for a while, and we'll determine if those things keep happening." So I understand that there might be some concern from CERN and from other people, and I'm not here to scare people. I'm not here to make an alarmist or red pill anybody. I don't believe in red pilling, and when I say red pilling, I mean that I don't believe that other people should just take an example of a fifth dimensional construct and shake it in front of somebody who's in a third dimensional consciousness and say, "Hey, look at this, let me shake up your world." Like, I don't believe in doing that either. I believe in talking about it in a rational manner, in a calm manner, in laying out the facts. And if people are going to understand, then it's going to move them, helpfully, move them forward when they're ready. I don't believe in red pilling someone until you're ready. So I don't believe that. And I believe that, if God brings you to it, he's going to bring you through it. So when people are ready, they're going to watch this video. If they're not ready, they're not going to watch this video. It's just the way it is. and the people who can't hang out with this information turned off the video 10 minutes ago and were like, this is BS. So I understand. And that's okay. I'm not out to get 1 million views on one video. In fact, if 10 people watch this and if it helps one person, it was worth it. If it helps 5 people, it was worth it. If it helps more than that, then it's worth it. If they can point me in something and help me, then it's worth it. If nobody can say anything out of it, I said it out loud and I could watch it later and I'll say, oh, and now I have another idea to say something. So with all that said, I was thinking a lot about the 5D and the fifth dimensional level of consciousness. And I thought it was neat that Einstein's equation equals mc squared dealt with basically 3D, right? But I want you to really understand that people who are perceiving the Mandela effect are perceiving effects 4D, 5D, and higher. So congratulations, you're smarter than Einstein in a way, right? So that's kind of neat. I just thought I'd mention that because equals mc squared, I want to come up with the equation for quantum entanglement in relation to equals mc squared, and equals mc squared, and write a line and write a Mandela effect equation and put that out there and be like, hey, I came out with this. So I am I think everybody deserves some pats on the back who are noticing these kind of things, and not to feel strange about it, because these kind of things could have been going on for quite some time. But being that your level of consciousness is high up enough, now you're able to perceive them. Now, I'm not explaining all the different types of Mandela effects with this. I only talked about words and how those words are changing, but that level of the brain is in the center of the brain, and I believe that it comes from the center, it moves outward. So I think I think you can actually relate that your level of consciousness in relation to higher levels of dimensions would be illustrated by what Mandela effects you actually see. Does that make sense to you? I hope so. So if you're able to just see words, then you're at, let's say, maybe even a first stage, or you're seeing a Kit Kat without a dash. Maybe that's the inner layer of the brain. As it relates to other Mandela effects, as you see those changes, those are other levels of quantum shifts that you're able to perceive because you're at that level of consciousness. So when I said before in another video, I was kind of paraphrasing that in a way. I said that people who see the Mandela effects are into that type of, like a frequency. What I'm really saying is that your higher frequency level of consciousness is able to perceive those changes because you're at that level. And for other people at a different level, they're seeing different things. And it doesn't mean you're wrong, doesn't mean you're right. I think that people can be trained by noticing these things to raise up their level of consciousness to a higher state. Now, does that mean if you don't see Mandela effects, or you're only seeing words or whatever, that you're not spiritual, or you're not at a higher level? No, right? So does that mean you can't get into heaven if you don't perceive? No, I don't believe that. It's like with anything. It's like, can you play a violin? No, but you can still appreciate the music. I don't believe that that makes you less of a person or more of a person. It's just an ability that you can work on if you want to. And if you don't want to, that's fine too. There's no pressure involved. For the people who are enamored with it, and now you tend to watch these type of videos, and you say, I want to learn more. I want to learn more. I want to understand what's going on. Hopefully, I gave you some information that you could process in a logical sense to understand what's going on. So we have it's a level of consciousness. So when you're at that certain level of consciousness, then you can perceive certain things. It takes someone at a higher level of consciousness to describe this, like me, and I'm not touting myself, I'm just telling you the truth, to describe these kind of things for the level of realization. That's, it depends on your level of realization. If you're at one level versus another level versus another level, then you could do that. I believe I'm at the highest level, so I could talk and do these kind of videos. There's other people that would, I guess, assume that they're at a certain level, but they're, talking about certain things. I can talk about all different things, so I can do this. And I believe part of my mission here on the planet is to help you guys, and I don't want people to worry about, Mandela effects, or worry if like I said, if you're not at a certain level of consciousness, it doesn't mean that, it's bad. It doesn't mean that. And listen, a lot of people don't want to, do certain things. That's fine too. You could do your own thing. There's no pressure, I think, involved. But for the people experiencing it and at a 6-dimensional level of consciousness or a 11th dimensional consciousness, maybe this will resonate with them and make more sense, and they could understand a little bit more. And I'm not even saying that you have to share this video. If you want to like it or comment, that's great. But I just, again, I don't feel like red pilling's people is, important. I do have people that I've talked to, and they watched a couple of my videos and they didn't understand what I'm saying. And they're saying, listen, you're talking about Mandela, I know Mandela died, later in life. All the other stuff that people are perceiving is wrong. I understand, what you're saying. That level of consciousness, you haven't attained it, so you're not perceiving what I'm perceiving, the duality and the like a quantum shift entanglement from past to future would be higher than 4th dimensional, right? That you perceive them dying at one time, but somebody else perceived them dying at a different time. So that would be time is, again, that goes into the 4th dimension. So we have 5th dimension and so on. So just wanted to, now you could document different Mandela effects, and what might be helpful is to somebody get a chart and document different Mandela effects with different levels of consciousness. If you could do that, I'd be impressed. I think that can be something that is available and that people can do. I don't feel like noticing avocados being changed. That might be that actually, I don't think that that's the highest level of consciousness, but it's within the realm of 5-dimensional consciousness and higher, sure. That I think, and I just thought to make this video to help. Trying to keep it short. I know everybody's busy. Nobody has patience, because everyone's watching too much television and they don't have patience to watch a 30-minute straight video with no commercial breaks, so my apologies. Hopefully you didn't have to pause this too many times. And then there's going to be a lot of comments. People saying, I don't watch TV. TV's horrible. Okay, you don't have to comment about that. I'm just was making a kind of a joke. Anyway, like, subscribe, and you don't have to share. Who says that, right? Who says that? Who on this YouTube craziness says you don't have to share it? So only, share with the people who are at that level of consciousness. But again, I don't believe red pilling is a good thing. I don't think you should go up to somebody and say, hey, this is wrong and this is wrong. What do you think about that? And this was always this way, but now it's this way. I don't think that's a good thing to do, because you're going to bother them, and so that's not what I'm about. I don't think I don't do that in my personal life. I don't go up to people and say, hey, do you know Kit Kat used to have a dash? And I don't do that. It's just not something I don't feel right about doing that. But for people that, if there was somebody out there that said, hey, if he knows this, then I discuss it with them, see how they're feeling about it, and, maybe discuss, certain things. So you have to be at that level of consciousness to talk about that level of consciousness. So for the people who are at that level of consciousness, love you guys. Peace. Thank you so much for tuning in. If you have any comments, comment. Hopefully that all made sense. And don't want to go too long with this. I have things to do too. Super tired this week. Super tired. Been very draining this week. Going to bed exhausted. Waking up exhausted. There's a lot of exhaustion going around. I think. Anyway, love you guys. Hopefully we'll have a lot of cool comments from this one. All right. Peace out. Thanks. Bye.